Welcome, everyone, to Enlightened World Network. I'm your host, Deb Goldberg, and we are here with Jane Montrose for a day of transformation. And Jane is a holistic minister, author, coach, and trainer. And she's an amazing person and teacher. And so I'm so happy to have you here with us today, Jane. So welcome.
Oh, thank you, Deb. I'm so glad to be here. It's a beautiful thing, day of transformation.
It certainly is. And before we get started, and you telling us about this awesome meditation that's coming, I want to remind everyone that we'll be taking prayer requests later. So if you please put any requests that you have into the comments in Facebook, then we will be sure to include them later when we are doing our prayerful meditation time. So as, now, I'd love for you to tell people, Jane, about your meditation.
Oh, thanks, Deb. Um, well, just as an overview, in essence, really, I work with my husband, Philip, we perceive life as a journey and where we're all in a beautiful state of becoming and really becoming our authentic selves and realizing our full potential, as you mentioned in the introduction. And I've always been fascinated by this journey and how we evolve. It just has been something, I think, from a fairly young age, at least young adult age, that I was really focused on it and not able to find out much that gave me kind of a big picture overview. So I think that standing in your divine authority is an integral part of the journey and goal, actually. And the journey takes us through specific stages and where uh, we go through energetic changes. And as we go through, we're bringing in more light. We're bringing in more presence of our soul, which I look at is in the heart, residing in the heart and soul, and and releasing fear and limitation. So we're just gradually expanding our perception of who we are, why we're here, where we're going, and everything. In fact, is a transformation of that from seeing ourselves as limited physical beings to really magnificent spiritual beings who are here with a reason. We're here for a reason with gifts and with a, a broader purpose, a larger purpose to share. So I wanted to reflect on the nature of the journey a little bit more before we start. And what I think the thing that amazes me most, having explored it for many years, and we started actually with some esoteric teachings way back way back when, like Alice Bailey and Gordon Michael Scallion, and where there are stages. People have mapped out stages in the journey, and different people have different understandings of them, as they do actually with the human energy system and the energy field. We relate the stages to the seven major energy centers, the seven chakras, and even those people understand differently. So it might be, for people listening, the way that we perceive it may not match specifically the way that you see it now. But I think the important thing really is the process that we go through. And we did, when we mapped it out originally, we weren't looking at it in relation to the chakras. We were looking at it just mapping out the stages. Like I said, we saw different ones. We decided we were going to map it out the way that we saw it, because we, at that time, were working with people. We offer a long, year-long, actually, course in holistic healing and life coaching. And so we have opportunities to watch people over a period of time, and often more than a year. Might be, in fact, a lot of times we have lifelong friends, and we continue to watch them evolve and grow, which to me also is just a wonderful thing to be part of. And when we realized that we had seven stages, and when we realized that they actually matched the seven energy centers, it made so much sense. And exploring it further, we realized that there are spiritual traditions in the East where awakening, spiritual awakening, has been understood in that way. We hadn't seen that ourselves. So it's like a ladder energetically, and in the process, it's like there are doors and windows that are opening in our awareness and energetically in the energy field. There are also 7 layers of the energy field that correspond roughly to the 7 chakras. So it's all about it really becoming, uh, it's realizing our energy field, realizing our full potential energetically. And then, of course, that reflects into how we conduct ourselves here. So with that in mind, what I'm planning to do is just take you on a journey on the spiritual path and describe the different stages. So we're going to start actually at the beginning, or go back to the beginning, which is, if you're watching this and listening to this, you probably are not all the way back at the beginning, or you wouldn't be here, and you'll see what I mean. So, but why don't we just start? So we always start with gently closing our eyes and taking in nice breaths of energy and light. And as you exhale, just releasing any tension you notice in your body or in that energy field, that there's a ball of energy around you. Just allow that to start melting down into the earth where it can be neutralized. And as you continue to breathe, you can just enjoy the breath and allow it to bring you more into the present moment, sending that energy into every area of your body with your breath, so you can feel more relaxed and more present. And as you breathe, you may notice that you can relax and stay alert so that you can hear my words as I take you through this journey. From this perspective, relaxed and still alert, you can ask any energy that isn't your own to leave your field now. We all pick up energy from other times, other places, other people, like a tabletop picks up dust. And we have power in our intention that we can use to ask that energy to go back where it came from, so that we can just be ourselves in our field. And in the same way, we leave bits of ourselves, bits of our own energy in other times and other places. So you can ask again with the power of your intent to have all of that energy brought back to you now, so you can be present in this moment. And you may notice as you settle into the simplicity of the moment that you feel more relaxed and also more energetic and alive all at the same time. It's wonderful to understand that our evolution is an integral aspect of this desire to be fully alive, to live fully and grow, to expand in wonderful ways, to claim your power and your divine authority as magnificent spiritual beings and make a positive difference in the world. In its essence, you could say the spiritual journey reveals the fullness of our human potential. So now, as you continue to breathe, focus on breathing in even lighter energy now. Allow your breath to be so nurturing and expansive that you can become light enough that you can imagine yourself starting to float gently upward, heading toward a lofty place where we can explore the spiritual path. When you arrive there on the spiritual path, you'll notice that your journey ahead is laid out before you, and the past extends into the distance behind you. And around you is the beauty of life. You may notice that there are trees, bubbling brooks, flowers, nature creatures, and more. The way the scene appears to you is perfect for you. So take in the beauty of the scene now, knowing that wherever you are on the journey, you can imagine drifting back to the beginning where many people on our planet still are. So feel yourself drifting back now, until you reach the beginning of the journey. Here you can get an overview and note the path that takes us from that repressive state of fear, separation, and limitation to an expansive state of love, connectedness, and expansion. Of course, those who are still at the first stage of the journey are largely focused on physical survival, and you could call their perspective tribal, which you may actually recognize as coming from our government right now, and which isn't actually as far along as our society is. But in the tribal level, people are in the herd of humanity, and we can imagine them around us now, people who are in that place with compassion, realizing that they, like all of us, are in a perfect place to take their next steps on the journey. And this state, we call this stage recognition, because it's a time when we start to recognize that we have some choices. We believe we're victims. Many people, and you probably know that, feel they're victims, limited spiritual or physical beings living in a dangerous world. And there's little or no soul presence there to help them to find their way. In the process going through recognition, our minds become more active and new possibilities emerge. It's like a light is going on inside of us. And this recognition then leads us to the second stage, which we call renunciation or breaking loose. The people around you who are in this stage, as you move forward to the second stage, from the first chakra, actually energetically, to the second chakra, which is more emotional, they're still following the herd with a slightly different focus than the first stage. This one, like the second chakra, is more focused on emotions and the culture we're in, which may be our family, religious, political, or other collective of some kind that represents our identity. Focus for a moment on this phenomenon, people following the leader and drawing their truth from outside of themselves. They feel safe, but at the same time, it points to some repression. The soul is calling, and we're not here just to follow someone else. You may recall actually being in that place yourself where you realized that you had to step out from whatever your group was and onto your own path, and really basically into the unknown. And often in mythology, there are those trips into the wilderness. So from the herd of humanity, you jump over the fence into the wilderness. And this is really where claiming our divine authority starts, because heading out into the unknown takes courage. For one thing, we have to sacrifice the perceived safety of the crowd to open to more individual opportunities. Breaking loose generally also involves rejection by those who are still in the herd. And you may find yourself being belittled or shunned, which actually happened to us at one time, where we were considered dead by the people in our group. So you can just focus for a moment on that and recall what that means to you, stepping out of the herd and being on your own path. It's interesting because when we reach this point, we know we can't go back. We're willing to leave the acceptance of the herd to follow our own paths. And as we prepare to take charge, really take command of our own lives, fear starts to lose its hold. And though we're still somewhat motivated by fear, the soul's loving presence becomes more active in our lives. We call this third stage empowerment, and it relates to the third chakra, which is our power center. This is where the spiritual journey really begins. As we claim our power, we get our first taste of freedom, and we claim our right to live life on our own terms. It's really the life we were born to live that we're claiming. The mind is also evolving. It's becoming more individuated now as we explore new possibilities. And at this point, people really they're typically are enjoying the freedom that they have being out on their own. And many people do things that are uncharacteristic of them. Like they might start to dress differently. Someone who has lived in the same place for all of their lives might start to travel, change jobs, develop new interests, and change a lot of behaviors. It is empowering. So you can focus at being in this place, claiming your power and owning and opening to the unknown. Maybe you can recall something like this in your life or experience it in your life now. It's interesting because once we're out in the wilderness, we start to consider who we really are. If we aren't part of the herd we just left behind us, then who are we really? The soul is becoming more present, and we're about to enter a really deep soul searching stage. So, the third chakra is generally considered the power center, and we're moving now into the love we hold in our hearts and souls. That question, who am I, takes us into that stage that we call embracing, because this is the time when we need to fully embrace ourselves. It relates to our hearts and souls and that deep exploration of our true identities. It's the stage that some people call even the dark night of the soul because we have to go deep within ourselves and really transform our perception of who we are. If we're not those limited physical beings, then where does that take us? And it's a time when a lot of people describe it's like they have their feet on two different sides of a gulf, or there's the the heart also is known as the spiritual bridge. So they may see themselves on a bridge into a different reality, but they aren't quite there yet. And it's at this stage when we have to explore a lot of the wounds that we've encountered or or taken on in our lives, the inner child kinds of things, past life issues, just anything that is blocking us from embracing ourselves as divine spiritual beings who have divine authority, who have the ability to actually make the most of our lives. And it is very enticing at this stage, but it also is very confusing. But as we go through the healing and we can embrace our divine nature, that prepares us for the fifth stage. We're moving now to the fifth chakra. And we see also the upper chakras as that's the next dimension, and the first three, it's like the energetic, physical, emotional, mental, the spiritual is the heart. Then we're up at the throat is the higher physical. So we're entering a place where we look at ourselves in a completely different way. And we call this sovereignty, which means having energetic sovereignty over ourselves. It really is similar to divine authority, having the authority to be ourselves in the world. And in reality, actually, we're living in a different world than we were before. So people who talk about dimensional shifts or that we're ascending, this is part of that process where we begin to understand ourselves as creators of our lives, living in a friendly world that's looking out for our well-being and helping us to evolve and grow, rather than, if you go back to survival, a reality where we were limited physical beings, really, who were powerless. So it's a big change to get to this point. It's also the place where the path narrows. We're stepping into a higher plane where we have to value ourselves and our energy enough to release any distractions that could cause us to deviate from what we might now call a life purpose or true purpose. So if we're here with a mission, a higher mission, we need to be able to focus on that without having too many distractions that could deviate us and set us back off course, and people who are trying to pull us back to where we came from. And just kind of noticing this as a stage and how it feels to embrace your divine authority physically, like to take on, to bring spirit down into form. You may feel that you're partway there now. You may feel like you're not there yet, but you can still get a sense of it. It's not like in the other stages there's no sense of what's coming. And this is a powerful place to be. We're stepping onto a higher plane where our energy is so important to us, and really our mission becomes more and more important than many of the distractions that we had before, or maybe even a change in occupation. Many of the people we work with are changing from a more conventional occupation, as I had as an architect, and moving into something that's more holistic. And as the soul then becomes stronger, we've passed the tipping point, which is really in the fourth stage, where the soul becomes a stronger influence than the wounded ego. So now the soul is emerging more powerfully. And that influence also diminishes fear. Love becomes a stronger guiding force. And that takes us into the sixth stage that we call integration, which really then, if we're moving onto a different plane of reality as spiritual beings, then we're integrating our roles there as creators. So the sixth chakra obviously is our vision, and our vision of who we are and why we're here becomes clearer now. Our sense of ourselves is really more as spiritual beings who have divine authority. That we have divine authority because we know that we came for a reason. It's not, none of this is accidental. Us being here now is not accidental. And we meet each other on the path at different times and repeatedly. So some of us might even have that kind of recognition of each other on a spiritual level. So we're becoming more aware of the big picture here. And we're also recognizing how our actions can have a positive impact on larger numbers of people. Whereas before we may have felt we didn't have any impact because here we were in this herd of humanity. And I know many of us have found ourselves in that place, not feeling that we matter. Now we can look at ourselves and our vision for humanity and realize we do matter. In fact, our contribution now is very, very important because we're in in a kind of an in-between zone as a society. And it's so beautiful. Love blossoms and fear recedes with the recognition that everyone has infinite possibilities. And the supply of good we seek knows no limit. We can start to really embrace prosperity as a part of our lives too. And this leads us to the seventh stage, which we call transcendence. Now we complete the process of becoming fully functional as creators of our lives, the lives we were born to live. And we're highly aware now that we create from the inside out. It isn't people influencing us or having power over us that creates our lives. When we move into divine authority, we are the creators of our lives. And in a way, you could say we're here to make our lives a masterpiece as a creation. So maybe you'd want to focus now on feeling like you're in this place of transcendence. You may be fully there or not all the way there, but you can still experience it and move further and further in that direction. Here, it might feel like you're on a lofty mountaintop with the beauty of life surrounding you. There's a panoramic 360-degree view of the world and of life, and it's so magnificent, and it's all unity. We've had those experiences of being in nature and being in a lofty place where we can feel ourselves in perfect harmony with all that is. And I think the most important point to me is to realize wherever you are, you can connect with the love in your heart and soul and be guided by it. That saying, follow your heart, which sounds so, it's so flippant, but it's so true. To just come to that place of peace within yourself and let your heart guide you. And wherever you are now, you can rise to that mountaintop and get an expansive view of our reality. And it's also interesting with the 7 stages, the journey doesn't end there. There's still more. The way that I perceive it, we have more energy centers above us. So we just connect more and more with ourselves as being divine and how everything is divine. So now we're ready to come back. So focus for a moment now on being in your seat wherever you started. And always know that you are in a perfect place to take your next steps. And that shining light, the light of your source, this the shining light of your source is always there. There's always light shining on us from source, and it's really a matter of whether we're open to receive it or not. So you may also feel that light of source shining down on you, the light of God. And notice how it's encouraging you forward as you prepare to go back to the rest of your day. And before we end, just breathe in more active energy now and feel your feet firmly on the ground. You want to be grounded. And really, in essence, we're talking about bringing spirit fully into form. And when I think of divine authority, I think of really being being firmly connected with the earth, but also equally connected with the divine. So when you're ready, you can open your eyes if you haven't already and just enjoy. And that's it.
Jane, that was absolutely amazing. And I just love understanding it, understanding the transformation process through the 7 stages associated with the chakras.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is such a brilliant way to understand yourself and what you're going through. And I think that's something that a lot of people would benefit from hearing.
Right. Right. And it
Yeah,
really is. However a person understands the journey, I think it would be hard to say that embracing your power and embracing yourself and then opening to your purpose, it's hard to say it could all happen without going through those steps. However, however, if you think there's no order to them or whatever, but from my perception, there is an order to it. And it's interesting, the chakras, they also alternate masculine and feminine, or more active and more inwardly focused. And I've noticed that in myself too, and other people. There are times when I'm very outgoing and doing a lot of things, and then I just pull back and I need to look deeper within myself. So we're balancing those two forces too, the will to realize our purpose, to move forward as spiritual beings, and then also I guess, claiming our right to be ourselves, which
mhm,
then we have to, it takes something to be yourself when you're around in a society that isn't like that, that's not really embracing that for you.
right. That is really so true. Um, and it's a process of, I guess, trusting yourself and the divine guidance that you have over everything else.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Hmm. Yeah. And especially today with things that are going on in the physical world, I think this is an awesome way for people to understand what it means to go higher and what the process is of unfolding
Mm-hmm.
into back into your really your divine nature.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. I think it is the next stage. I kind of label that as the divine set of stages, which really is recognition that everything is divine.
Mhm.
So it's a larger recognition than even I'm a spiritual being in a physical body. It's like everything is divine,
Right, right.
and then recognizing that on all levels.
I'm so grateful to have you here. Can you tell people how to please get in touch with you?
Oh, I did actually. There was. Let me see if I can find it. On our website, we have actually a page where we go through those 7 stages, and we have a very extensive website. Once you get there, you can look around. I think there's a free gift on that page too. I created a tiny URL for it because it's all of our pages have long URLs. So it's tinyurl.com/7 spiritual stages, and it's all in one word, 7 spiritual stages. So it's tinyurl.com/7 spiritual stages. And the website itself is gettingthrough.org. It's gettingthru.org. And the main page is /holistic, gettingthrough.org/holistic. And there are different parts to the website, and there are free things and just a lot of information.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's always a joy to spend time with you and the beautiful wisdom and light and love that come through you.
Oh, thank you, Deb. It's a pleasure, and pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. I'm very happy to have you here. And coming up next is actually Gerald Ann
Oh,
Peterson. So
a friend of mine.
yeah, she'll be on next with Ruth Anderson.
Wow,
And
wonderful.
yeah, and then a reminder for prayer requests you can put into any of the comments under any of the healing sessions. So, wishing you a continued blessed day, and I hope you keep tuning in with us. We'll be here until 9 o'clock tonight. Our follow up at 7:45 will be on Angel Heart Radio for our ceremony of light. Thank you and take care. Bye bye.
Bye.